Ladies and gentlemen, in life there are moments when time seems to slip away from us, when years pass by and we look back only to see emptiness, disappointment, or regret. Perhaps you have felt as though the time you've invested in something, a dream or a relationship, has been wasted. The truth is, you are not alone in this. Many have walked this path of feeling as though their years have slipped through their fingers. But I stand before you today with a profound truth. God will restore your wasted years. It is easy to fall into despair and think that the things you've lost, the opportunities you missed, and the years you feel were wasted can never be reclaimed. But restoration, in the eyes of God, is not just about returning things to how they were. It's about creating something new, something better. Life, as we all know, is full of unexpected twists and turns. There are times when the road we travel seems to take us far off course, when dreams are deferred or dashed altogether. We face setbacks, disappointments, and failures that often leave us questioning what it all means. Have you ever looked at your past and wondered how much time has been lost? Those years that seem to pass by without the fruits we anticipated. The moments that slip away without the rewards we expected. It's easy to feel like time has been wasted, that what we once hoped for will never come to fruition. But it is important to remember that these feelings are a natural part of being human. The ache of wasted time, the frustration of missed opportunities, and the regret of what could have been. These are emotions we all face at some point. It's easy to look at these years and see nothing but a void, a gap between where we are and where we wanted to be. These feelings of emptiness are real. When life doesn't unfold the way we had planned, or when we find ourselves staring at a life that feels unfulfilled, it's hard not to feel as if we've been robbed of something essential. We might ask ourselves questions like, why did I spend all that time on something that didn't work out? Why did I waste those precious years on a dream that never came true? The weight of these thoughts can be overwhelming, especially when life feels like a collection of missed chances. But the first step in moving forward is acknowledging that this pain, though real, is not the end of the story. It's merely a chapter in a larger narrative, one that has yet to reach its true climax. Every setback, every failure, and every disappointment, though it may feel like wasted time, is part of a much greater process of growth, learning, and refinement. As painful as it may be to face the feeling of wasted years, this is not where our story ends. We must allow ourselves to confront this reality, to feel the weight of it, but also to understand that the story does not conclude with regret. There is still more to come, and what may feel like wasted years can, in truth, be the fertile soil from which new opportunities and blessings will grow. In moments of loss and disappointment, it can be difficult to hold on to hope. When we look at the time we believe has been wasted, it may seem impossible that there is any way for it to be redeemed. Yet, this is where the promise of restoration becomes so powerful. We must remember that restoration, in the eyes of God, is not simply about returning to what once was. It is about transforming what has been lost into something new, something even more beautiful and meaningful. God's restoration is a divine act of renewal, but it doesn't simply mean a return to the past. It means that from the pain, the disappointment, and the missed opportunities, something better is being shaped. This is the incredible nature of God's restoration. It is not a mere patching up of what is broken. It is the creation of something far greater than we could have imagined. It is as if God, in His wisdom, takes the very things we thought were beyond repair, beyond redemption, and turns them into the foundation of something far more wonderful. It's important to understand that restoration involves transformation. What God restores is not necessarily the exact form it once had, but something that reflects His perfect plan for our lives. This transformation might look different than what we expected, but it will always be more fulfilling than what we lost. Restoration doesn't mean merely fixing things to the way they were. It means making them whole in a deeper, more profound way. The life that God restores is often one that carries a richer understanding, a deeper faith, and a more grounded sense of purpose. God's restoration is not limited to material possessions or tangible achievements. It encompasses every aspect of our being, our emotional health, our relationships, and our spiritual well-being. What has been broken in your heart or soul will be mended in ways that you cannot foresee, and what has been lost in relationships can be renewed in ways that reflect God's love and grace. The years you feel were wasted will not only be redeemed, but will become the very vehicle through which you experience His greater plan. Restoration in God's eyes is a promise that goes far beyond the fleeting nature of human understanding. It is the certainty that what is broken will be made whole and what is lost will be found again, transformed and renewed in ways that glorify His purpose for your life. When we speak of God's restoration, it is essential to understand that it is not a one-dimensional process, but a deeply holistic one that touches every part of our lives. Many people often associate restoration with the tangible, material wealth, career success, or physical health. But God's restoration goes far beyond the physical realm. It reaches into the depths of our emotional, spiritual, and relational lives, offering healing where it is needed most. Restoration, in the divine sense, involves the healing of wounds that may not always be visible to the human eye. It is the mending of a broken heart, the rebuilding of trust in relationships, and the renewal of hope in a world that can often feel weary and cold. When we've experienced loss, whether it be the loss of loved ones, opportunities, or the fading of dreams, it is not just our material circumstances that suffer. We are often left with emotional scars, deep doubts, and unanswered questions. This is where God's restoration comes into play. He does not just restore our outward circumstances. He goes to the very core of who we are, healing the deep hurts that no one else can see. God's restoration also works within the soul. It is the renewal of joy, peace, and purpose that seems to vanish in times of struggle. Many people, in their moments of loss, find themselves questioning their worth, their direction, or even their faith. But through God's restorative work, He brings back the light that was once dimmed by life's hardships. It is not just a return to what we had before, but a transformation into something stronger, more steadfast, and more trusting in His grace. He reshapes us in ways we may not immediately understand, but we can trust that every aspect of our being is touched by His loving hands. Restoration is deeply relational. When we experience fractures in relationships, whether through misunderstandings, betrayals, or growing apart, God offers a way to rebuild what was broken. His restoration allows for forgiveness, reconciliation, and the renewal of bonds that may have seemed beyond repair. These relationships, once restored, can often be deeper and more meaningful than they were before, because they are now built upon a foundation of grace, understanding, and humility. In all these areas, God's restoration brings a fullness of life that transcends what was lost. It is a promise of renewal, not just in one aspect, but in every part of our existence. When we think of restoration, it's tempting to imagine an instant change, a sudden transformation where everything is fixed in an instant. Yet restoration rarely happens overnight. It often requires time, patience, and a willingness to trust in God's perfect timing. In our world of instant gratification, this concept of gradual restoration can feel difficult to accept, especially when we're longing for relief or change. But the process of restoration is not a sprint, it is a journey, and part of that journey involves learning the value of patience. The idea of waiting can be unsettling. We live in a world that values speed, quick results, immediate solutions, and fast fixes. When things aren't going the way we want them to, it's easy to become frustrated, to question why God isn't acting on our behalf immediately. But patience, especially in the context of restoration, is not a passive act. It's an active form of trust. Patience means acknowledging that, although we may not see the change yet, God is working behind the scenes, even when we can't perceive it. Just as a seed must take time to grow into a tree, so too must the restoration of our lives take time to unfold. During this waiting period, we must recognize that restoration is not just about receiving the end result, but about the transformation that takes place within us along the way. In the process of waiting, God often uses that time to deepen our faith, strengthen our character, and build our trust in Him. It is in these moments of waiting that we learn to rely not on our own understanding, but on the greater plan that God has for us. Though it may feel like nothing is changing, God is working in ways we cannot yet see, molding us and preparing us for the fullness of His restoration. Patience also means that we learn to let go of our need to control the outcome. We may have expectations about how and when restoration should occur, but God's ways are not our ways. His timing is perfect, and sometimes the process of waiting is exactly what we need in order to be prepared for what He has in store. Trusting in God's timing is an essential part of the restoration process. It is through patience that we are made ready to receive the fullness of what He is bringing into our lives. So, while the road to restoration may not always be immediate, remember that each step taken in faith is a step towards something greater than we could have imagined. The waiting, the patience, and the trust all lead to a transformation that will be worth every moment. When we look back at the years that seem wasted, it's important to recognize that even in what feels like loss, there are valuable lessons to be learned and experiences that shape us for what is ahead. It's easy to focus on what went wrong, the dreams that never materialized, or the opportunities that slipped through our fingers. But if we can shift our perspective, we begin to see that these seemingly wasted years are not as empty as they may appear. In fact, they hold the potential for profound growth and transformation, even if we cannot fully understand it at the time. Consider that the years you believe were lost may have been a crucial part of your development. The disappointments, struggles, and failures you experienced during those years have equipped you with resilience, wisdom, and empathy in ways that success and ease could never have. There is a deepening of character that comes from enduring hardship, and these experiences form the foundation of your future success. The process of dealing with adversity teaches you how to handle challenges when they arise, and it shapes you into someone who can navigate the complexities of life with strength and understanding. It is also crucial to understand that the things we perceive as setbacks are often part of a divine redirection. We may look back at a particular job, relationship, or project and see it as a failure. But what we often fail to realize is that these experiences were preparing us for something better, something more aligned with our true purpose. God's plan for us is often far greater than what we initially desire or imagine, and the years that seem lost may have been exactly what we needed to be prepared for the blessings to come. Looking at life through this lens helps us to stop seeing the past as a burden and start seeing it as the fertile ground for something new. It allows us to let go of regrets and embrace the lessons learned along the way. The mistakes we made, the wrong turns we took, and the obstacles we faced are not signs of failure. They are part of the path toward the restoration that awaits us. When we focus on the bigger picture, we see that God is not a God of wasted opportunities. He works all things together for good, even when we can't immediately understand how. The perspective shift from regret to hope allows us to trust that what we thought was lost will be restored, and that what seemed like a detour was, in fact, part of a divinely orchestrated journey. As we reflect on the idea of restoration, it's important to recognize that restoration is not simply a passive experience. It is not something that happens to us while we sit idly by, waiting for change to come. Rather, it requires active participation and a commitment to align ourselves with the process God is unfolding in our lives. Restoration is a partnership between our faith and God's work, and our role in this partnership is essential. The first step in actively participating in your own restoration is to hold on to hope. It can be easy to let go of hope, especially when we feel that the years have been wasted or the path ahead is unclear. But hope is the fuel that keeps us moving forward. It is the conviction that no matter how difficult the past has been, something better is on the horizon. When you hold on to hope, you are acknowledging that God has a plan for your life, a plan that includes restoration, renewal, and growth. Hope allows us to look beyond our current circumstances and see the promise of what is to come. Along with hope, we must take action. Waiting for restoration does not mean we passively wait for things to change on their own. We are called to take steps, no matter how small, toward healing and renewal. This might mean taking the time to reflect, seeking out relationships that can help us grow, or learning new skills that will empower us for the future. It might involve making difficult decisions, letting go of what no longer serves us, or embracing new opportunities. Restoration involves movement, and that movement is spurred by our willingness to act in faith. Aligning ourselves with God's purpose is crucial. We cannot restore what has been lost on our own, but when we align ourselves with God's will, He works in and through us to bring about His perfect restoration. This alignment requires humility and trust. Trust that God knows the best way to restore us, and humility to accept that His plan may look different from our own. As we seek His guidance, we begin to see our lives with fresh eyes, recognizing the lessons in the hardships, the growth in the waiting, and the promise of renewal in every season. Restoration is a journey, one that requires patience, hope, action, and trust. By participating actively in this journey, we not only prepare ourselves to receive the restoration God has in store, but we also grow in ways that make us more resilient, more compassionate, and more faithful. The path ahead may not always be easy, but it is filled with the promise that God is working all things together for good, and with each step, we draw closer to the fullness of His restoration.